So this one is about whether Churchill was an idiot, kind of a response to a video that I saw, history video, kind of linked on there. Um, was Churchill an idiot? Was he one of these ESTP types, one of these high SE users that sort of overuses SE, and we end up over glamorizing, if that's even a word, whatever. But we kind of glamorize the use of SE force with uh, political figures and military types. Do we over romanticize? Well, let's talk about that. So with Churchill, was he an idiot? The premise of this comes from the idea that Churchill, and you know what, let me show you that right there, right? This is where it's coming from, this idea. Here's the video. Churchill was an idiot. And kind of looking at someone who just overly assertive and just kind of wanted to attack all the time. So was he moronic? It's kind of interesting to think about it. It's not something that I'm used to hearing about with Churchill, I have to admit. Even after watching it though, and seeing the difficulties that he had in the constantly pushing his commanders to attack all the time, demonstrating sort of a lack of real understanding of military logistics, tactics, the finer points, let's call it, of military operations. We have to remember, of course, that this is really common for politicians in general, regardless of their type. Many politicians tend to not really understand combat and warfare and so on very well. So they often interfere with military operations and do all kinds of stupid shit. Churchill is really no exception to this. Now, in fairness to Churchill, he was a bulldog personality, very aggressive, very pushy, a lot of SE, no doubt about it. But it was because of that SE that he also ever made it to prime minister. You could argue that we wouldn't even know his name historically if not for the fact that he was somebody who very forcefully and aggressively pursued his ideas, his policies, pursued becoming somebody important within the British Parliament, and eventually becoming prime minister. Once he becomes prime minister, something that Churchill was really known for, historically, we tend to think of it now, is that Churchill was the symbol of defiance against Nazi Germany. He was a rallying cry. He was the guy who said that we will never surrender. We'll fight them everywhere, on the beaches and on the land and so on. We get the speech. So that is, in a sense, excellent beta-like qualities going on there. Beta type qualities, SEFE combination happening. This great display of defiance, this very emotional, we'll never surrender, and I'm gonna rally people to this battle cry. I'm not sure that's something that most types could do. I don't think a single alpha type could do that. I'm not sure gammas would do that well either as a whole, and I'm not sure that you deltas would either. This is something that betas, extroverted betas, could do pretty well. And it's that fighting spirit, that defiance, that we will never surrender. That cheerleader-like attitude was needed at the time. It was needed to help bolster British resolve to stay and fight. So on one hand, we might criticize his aggressiveness, his impulsive desire to want to attack all the time and engage the enemy all the time, because he needed political victories too. He needed something that he could show the British people and the world that, hey, we're winning, we're still in this fight. Sitting idle for 5 months or 6 months without any kind of major newspaper headline for a politician is awful. You need something to report to people. He is also responsible for many of the best British innovations of the time, or partly responsible. But I'm going to give him credit because he was the prime minister who gave the green light to initiate these programs. He was a great proponent of a lot of the British espionage and counter espionage organizations that were formed at the time, and became great successes. The implementation of recruiting people from all over the world and dropping them into occupied Europe to act as spies and saboteurs and assassins and all this was an excellent idea. And he was the one who gave the green light for that. Why? Because he wanted any way he could to strike back at Nazi Germany. So this is the aggressive SE thing again. He is also green lighting the formation of a whole new unit known as the Commandos. The Royal Marine Commandos, as they are now. At the time, they were Royal Marine Commandos and they had Army Commandos. But at this time period, the idea of building a regular warfare unit, a raiding force, a rapid light infantry attack raiding force was new. No country in the world really had anything like it. Now, did Churchill invent these things himself? Were this his brain product? No, it was proposed to him by other individuals, military types and people who just had an idea. But he was the right man to approve of these ideas. Somebody else who was less aggressive, less SE, less desire to get after the enemy might not have approved these things, might have thought that they were too costly, too ambitious, too dangerous, whatever. Right. So we have to kind of give them some credit for giving the green light to these things, even if only out of a simple desire to just want to do anything possible to come to grips with the Germans, to fight them. So we got to give them some credit for that. Which, by the way, the Commandos were a tremendous success. The British SAS was founded in this time as well, another great success. These organizations proved to still to this day be a great success, and they became the forerunners of many other light infantry special operation types of units that would be founded all over the world. The American Army Rangers is basically a copy and paste job of what the British Commandos were. The British SAS kind of became the forerunners to many deep mission direct action type of special operations units around the world. There are many units around the world that are SAS. They even call themselves SAS. So anyway, you have to give them some credit for these things, the fighting spirit that helps motivate and maintain British resolve to keep the fight going. Did he do dumb things? Yes. Do politicians in general do a lot of dumb things? Yes. Do they often interfere with military operations that cause more problems? Yes. This happens all the time, regardless of whether the individual is SE Dom or not. Now, I know the counter argument could then be, well, people who are not SE Doms are far less likely to interfere or get involved or even start the conflict in the first place. Yeah, true. But I say they're far less likely to start the conflict in the first place. But sometimes conflict is exactly what's needed. So maybe what you don't want is a Neville Chamberlain appeasing Nazi Germany. Maybe we don't want somebody like that. Maybe what exactly we need is somebody here to fight. World War II, you could say ultimately at the end of the day, that's what it was about. There was a need to fight. We needed bulldogs who were there to fight. Once the war is over, Unfortunately, some of these characters are no longer useful anymore because they don't know how to do anything else but fight. This was a problem for Patton. General Patton was often described this way. He lived for the war. He lived for the fight. And the peace would kill him. This was kind of a line in the movie. There's a lot of people like that. Unfortunately for them, they live for the fight and the struggle, and they may just not survive a peaceful world where the fight is not needed anymore. That warrior spirit is not needed.